Hey boxing fans, this is Ian Thomas and this is Matthias on Boxing. On Saturday the 8th of May, we will finally get to see Canelo Alvarez take on Britain's very own Billy Joe Saunders at the AT&T Stadium in Texas. And this one is going to have fans and I cannot wait. This huge fight will be shown live on DAZN and will be for the WBO, WBA, WBC and the Ring Super Middleweight titles. Okay, firstly let's talk about the tail of the tape. Let's start with Canelo Alvarez. He comes into this with a fight record of 55 wins, 1 loss and 2 draws. And he's recorded 37 knockout victories on this time. He's a 30-year-old. He comes in at 5'8" with a 70.5 inch reach. And he's an orthodox fighter. Whereas Billy Joe Saunders comes into this fight undefeated, 30-0 with 14 victories coming his way at knockout. He's 31. He stands at 5'11" with a 71 inch reach, and he's the southpaw fighter in this fight. Firstly, let's introduce Billy Joe Saunders. He currently holds the WBO Super Middleweight title, and as I just mentioned, he's undefeated. This is a fight that Saunders has been calling for a long time, but it just never seems to have happened. Critics will say that Saunders doesn't really focus on opponents and doesn't seem to take his training camp seriously. But for me, Saunders is a lot like Tyson Fury in the case that the bigger the name, the better he is. I believe that Billy Joe Saunders will come in top shape for this fight, especially having had a 12-rounder against the tough Martin Murray in December. I feel that in the past, Billy Joe has seemed to always come into fights on the back of lengthy layoffs, always seems to be rusty, never had a full training camp. But for this, I think it's going to be the biggest fight of his life. And I think he's going to come in top shape. Saunders has stepped up to every big fight he's had. His rough and ready approach will hold him in good stead for this fight, which is going to be a tough night, I believe. Look, his KO records aren't that impressive, but his boxing IQ is second to none. For example, when he fought Eubank Jr., he boxed Eubank Jr.'s head off, but he did seem to fade in the second half of the fight. But I do believe we will see a different Billy Joe Saunders come May. To date, his biggest win was probably against the tough and big puncher David Lemieux, where again Saunders made that fight look easy at times. Hit a move, a little bit of showboating for the crowd, which is not always a good thing, but I think he'll be confident going into this fight. He seems confident in his interviews. He seems like he's taking training as serious as you can be, and this is the fight that I believe that he does want. Now let's talk about Canelo Alvarez. There's not much that I can say that people don't already know. Canelo is a boxing superstar. And as I said earlier, Canelo is a clear favourite for this fight. A lot of people saying that he's going to knock Billy Joe Saunders out easily. But I'm not so sure that will go down as easy as people may think. You can't knock Canelo for what he's done in boxing. He's boxed world-class fighters and he is a world-class fighter himself. But as I've said in previous videos, he's far better since his loss to Floyd Mayweather. He's learned so much from that fight and he's adapted his style and he hasn't really looked back. He's arguably the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter out there. He's moved up and down weights. He's fought the likes of Kovalev. He's then fought Triple G. He's fought Danny Jacobs and he's beaten them all. There's contrasting styles there. So he is going to be prepared for a difficult night, but I'm not too sure those styles are going to replicate what Billy Joe Saunders will bring. For me, I think he lost one of those fights against Triple G, at least one of those, and arguably fought an aging Kovalev, but you can't knock what he's done. He's gone in there, he's got the job done, and he is a totally different fighter now. He's a totally different animal. Going on Canelo's previous last 2 fights, he's not really impressed me with anything different. Maybe it's because he hasn't had to. Callum Smith went in there, didn't really seem comfortable. Kind of went in there with the ethos that I'm going to knock him out, I've got the power, but just didn't let go, didn't throw his shots. Maybe that was due to Canelo being the much superior fighter, or maybe it was Smith knowing that he'd stopped his brother in previous fights. You just don't know. But you got to throw and you got to try and box Canelo to win or to try and knock him out. He didn't seem to do that. And Yildirim I know it was a mandatory fight. A lot of people question why that fight was made. But he just didn't turn up or didn't want to be there. It was a payday, simple as that. But, you can't knock Canelo's activity. He's always fighting regularly. He's always top shape, top fitness, always fighting fit and ready. And to his credit, he will always step up to a challenge, and he's not afraid to fight anyone. As I've said, Canelo is world class. So he's tough, he's got the power. His boxing IQ is world level. He can box. I don't think he's been in there with an opponent like Billy Joe, as I've said. Billy can switch stances, use his ring craft, and box for 12 rounds. For me, the way to beat Canelo is to outbox him. I know that sounds easier than said than done, but I'm sure other fighters have tried and goes in there looking to show that they can outbox him. But from what I can see, a lot of fighters go in there against a superstar like Canelo and think, right, I'm going to knock him out. I can knock him out. I've got the power to do so. But it just doesn't seem to work. You need speed, you need agility, and most importantly, you need to be smart. I remember having a debate with my mate about in the Canelo-Mayweather fight, and I said Mayweather will win on points. And I was told, no, look at the size of Canelo, he's going to power through him, blast through him, but it just doesn't work that way. Boxing is a sport where it's hit and not get hit. Something Mayweather is the absolute best at, especially in his last part of his career, where his hands affected him, so he had to go on the defensive style, where he just picked off opponents. Canelo has since adopted that style to very good effect, but he does have a granite chin, so he does walk his opponents down, and it's evident that I don't think Billy Joe Saunders will be able to knock him out. Nobody's done it, nobody's really rocked him, so the way to do it is outbox him. Prime example, when Canelo fought Amir Khan. Khan absolutely outboxed Canelo in the early rounds for me, and I believe was winning the fight, but then Canelo landed and ended the fight. I think Saunders is far more durable than Khan. He's not as quick, but he's quicker than Canelo in my opinion. So he would look to hit and not get hit. I don't think he'll go in there to land big shots and try and stop Canelo. He'll box smart. It may not be a classic, but for the average fan, but for the boxing purist like myself, it'll be a case that I'd love to see the footwork, the in and out punches that ultimately score points. The biggest thing for me with Billy Joe Saunders is Canelo's work to the body. Billy Joe can come in and out, score little points here and there, but Canelo is ferocious when he's hitting the body, and obviously Saunders coming in to hit him is going to have to get close. And as you've seen in Canelo's previous fights, he disguises that body hook and then comes up and hooks the head, or he can hit to the body. He's done it in the past, and I think that could wear Billy Joe Saunders out, where he has been known to fade in the past. But like Saunders have been quoted saying, he's only just turned 31. He's got no miles on the clock. He feels like he hasn't taken any punishment, and he believes Canelo's been in the hardest fights and has more miles on the clock. So, I mean, Billy Joe Saunders obviously wants to cement his legacy and beat him. Every fighter have said the same. But I just feel that, the mentality of Billy Joe, I think he's definitely going in there believing that he can win this fight. So, to round it up on the prediction, I'm going with my head and not my heart, and I'm going to pick Canelo on points. I do believe that Billy Joe Saunders will win the fight from a viewer's point of view, but in the past, scorecards have been very generous to Canelo, or home fighters, if you like. That's something that is killing boxing, unfortunately, but it's going to be a very close fight. I think Saunders is clever enough to see the final bell, but you can't write off Canelo finishing it at late stages. If Saunders fades, Canelo does seem to get stronger. If he knows that he can take a shot, which I believe he will with Billy Joe Saunders, he's just going to come at you smiling, throwing punches, hitting you to the body, hooks, making you slip shots, getting you frustrated. But definitely, I want Billy Joe Saunders to win, obviously being a fellow Brit. I think he can. I think he can shock the world. I do think that this could be a massive shock. He's not going to stop Canelo. It's not going to happen. If the judges are right on the night, I can see Billy Joe Saunders winning in a point style, maybe a split decision. But it's probably going to go Canelo via unanimous points decision. But it may be controversial, which may enter a second fight. Maybe one day getting Canelo over to the UK. I'm sure British fans would love to get a superstar to fight in the UK. But all in all, you just want the right decision. If Billy Joe goes in there, fights a smart game plan, wins the fight, you want the judges to score and see it that way. You don't want that decision where everyone's talking about the decision afterwards when it's a great fight. But regardless of the outcome, both fighters are quality operators. There's no doubt about that. It's just a question whether now Billy Joe Saunders can go to world level. He's already obviously won a world title, but he's never really fought a superstar like Canelo. Hope you all enjoy the fight. Please let us know in the comments below who you think will win the fight.